Good evening. It's Monday, January 13th, 2020, and it's 7 p.m., and you are watching Q News Tonight. We are out of the closet and into the headlines. I'm your anchor, Aaron Darr, and I am joined by my co-anchor, Napoleon Plays.
That's right. Thanks, everybody. We have dropped our baggage tonight, and it is just the two of us here to have a good time with you, whatever be the consequence.
Whatever the consequences may be. So we are the world's first live daily gay evening news program. News that is completely live and unscripted, so as Napoleon was kind of suggesting, anything can happen. This is week 2 of our broadcast, and we are thrilled to be back as you welcome us into your homes this week. Q News Tonight is brought to you in part by the It's Happening Out television network. It's Happening Out, the world's most popular live gay television show, which is shown on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m., which Al Ferguson is on, as well as Napoleon.
That's right. I'm on it, too. But you've also been on it a couple of times.
I have been on it a couple of times.
When we need that strong Democratic point of view.
Yes, he just outed me as a Democrat, folks.
It's okay. We know your strong spectrum and appreciate your beliefs.
Yes, thank you. So every Wednesday at 8 p.m., It's Happening Out. You can catch it. But it's like The View, but without Meghan McCain, and where people do not throw microphones at her.
That's right, except for the one time where we did have a Republican throw the mic back, but that was an entirely different story. It was completely prearranged, I promise you.
Perfect.
It was a Madonna moment. We just needed to have it.
Don't ask, don't tell, right?
And if you guys are fans of our show, and if you appreciate the LGBTQ plus voices, then make sure to join us live. Not just like and subscribe, but start a watch party. And it's so simple. We've got a video to help you out, so just watch this.
When viewing our live show in your app, please click share. After clicking share, your screen should change and you can then click watch party. On the next screen, you can write text to your viewing audience and then click start watch partying. You've done it. Enjoy your party.
Yes, and we are broadcasting to you tonight at the sanctuary that is the World AIDS Museum and Education Center here in the heart of Fort Lauderdale, Wilton Manors, which is also, as Al lovingly refers to it as, the gayest place on planet Earth, which tonight, Al's not here with us. He's actually at Gay Ski Week in Aspen, so it's a little less gay here in South Florida now that Al's not here.
Oh, well, no one could argue that, Aaron, so we appreciate just having the two of us here to report on the strict news of today.
On the strict news, and trust me, Al's pretty gay. I think Al's gayer than Judy Garland's picnic basket.
Oh my God. If we're about to go into the Netflix special, I am ready for this, the Aaron Darr special of comedy. Let's hit for it.
Let's do it. And also, going into that, a big thank you to Concepto Modern Living for furnishing our set as well. As always, thank you again to Concepto Modern Living. So let's do it. Let's cue up the news, the world news as it affects the LGBTQ community today. So in breaking news, we had some news that happened here just down the way in Wilton Manors. There was a protest that happened today at with the Log Cabin Republicans and their endorsement of Keep America Great, which is President Trump's 2020 re-election campaign. Take a look at this video. Hi, this is Aaron Darr with Q News Tonight, and as you can see behind me here today, the Broward County chapter of the Log Cabin Republicans are officially endorsing President Donald Trump for his 2020 re-election campaign to Keep America Great. As you can see, there are many tensions here today on both sides. From the right for President Trump, and supporters over here to my left for a various wide spectrum. So emotions very high here this afternoon at the city of Wilton Manors, and all of this taking place under the pride flag that is flown each and every single day by the city of Wilton Manors. You're watching Q News Tonight. So, yes, as you just saw, chaos in front of the Wilton Manors City Hall here in the gayest place on planet Earth. Well, Al missed it.
If anyone is there to talk on it, clearly you are. Aaron, I was very impressed by your skills at interviewing people that were there, as well as getting to the depths of what was going on in the middle of this locally public tumultuous event. What was going on?
Yeah. Well, I tried to go there in a nonpartisan way. Andrew Brett, who is the president of the local chapter of the Log Cabin Republicans, was there today with 4 of his members. And to be fair, they do have a membership of 60 individuals, but there were 4 there. It was in the middle of the afternoon, very hard for people to get there, but they had some allies there, and there was some press. But at the same time, there was a counter-protest on the opposite side with a lot of very passionate, if you will, or pissed off members of the LGBT community who could possibly not understand why someone who is LGBT would be supporting Donald Trump.
Aaron, I've been to a couple of the local log cabin Republican meetings. What was your big takeaway from going to that event earlier today?
That there is no changing their opinion, and that anything otherwise to them is absolute and total fake news.
Well, I look forward to seeing more from the log cabin Republicans and their local chapter to see what emerges from that.
Yeah.
Lots of big protests today at
Yes.
the gayest place in America.
Right. So more breaking news. A gay conservative man has unfortunately taken his life. This news unfortunately comes out of Australia. Wilson Gavin, a 21-year-old activist in Australia, has killed himself after going viral in a video after opposing drag queen Story Hour. In 2017, he also made headlines having appeared in various news programs opposing marriage equality in the Australian Parliament. As we see some of the video in front of us, very confrontational on his end, at 21 years old. And what do you think?
It must be really complicated to have so much going on with yourself internally in terms of your social interactions. I mean, both you and I we've both come out. We've had different conversations where it's been about the fact that we might have been uncomfortable with who we are. And it's a shame to see somebody that could potentially be outing themselves or outing their own points of view just because they are uncomfortable with themselves. And I think that that's a lot of what we experience in the LGBTQ sector of politics, are people that are uncomfortable and don't know how to express what they want to be and how they could grow as individuals.
Yeah. No, I definitely I feel for him, and our thoughts and prayers go out to Wilson Gavin, his family, his friends, and others that are unfortunately impacted by his suicide.
It is unfortunate.
Yes, very unfortunate. So more news, but across the pond, Prince Harry has come out against homophobia. So take a look at this video.
Prince Harry has reportedly made a lasting impression on a fellow soldier who was in desperate need back in 2008. According to Lance Corporal James Wharton's new memoir, Out in the Army, the young prince defended him after bullies threatened Wharton's life in a homophobic attack.
So as we know, Prince Henry served in the British Army for 10 years because that is the UK law. And recently, James Wharton, who was the first openly gay serviceman to be on the front of Soldier magazine, came out with a story which expressed that in 2008, Harry saw some soldiers who were making James feel uncomfortable for being gay, and Prince Harry told them off for them to leave James Wharton alone. Wharton then went on to compliment Harry's abilities in both the community and his skill set while in service. So what we're seeing is Prince Harry, who is obviously a little bit in publicity now for him and Meghan Markle, his new princess, his new wife, or Duke.
Duke and Duchess of Sussex.
Duchess would be the word. That's correct. The Duchess of Sussex. They're getting out of the public limelight by creating their own financial placehold in the world, either through her acting or whatever else they can endeavor. And that's taken a little light away from the fact that this story has come out where Prince Harry has actually been a fan and been perpetuating the fact that LGBTQ people are a part of society and should not be picked on for any reason, especially when in service. So it's great to see Prince Harry in that type of a role. He's always been a role model for being a person of self-sacrifice and self-worth, so I appreciate having this kind of story come to the light.
Yes, he's definitely shown himself to be, as has William, as they've gotten older, to be a product of their mother. One of her sayings, and I've said it on It's Happening Out, is that the biggest disease the world suffers from this day and age is the disease of people feeling unloved, and they definitely are spreading love in any and all ways that they can.
It's a valiant point of view.
Very proud of them,
especially
for
in
sure.
this story. Thanks for that.
Yes. So our next story, we're coming back to the United States of America in regards to NASA's Artemis program, which is headed to Mars. Let's go on to meet NASA's first astronauts graduates of the Artemis program, which they're going to be eligible for missions to the moon and to Mars. After more than 2 years of training, the first class of NASA astronauts candidates for the agency's program are going to be landing the first woman and the second man on the moon. 6 of them are women and 7 of them are men. So this is surely going to be very exciting, because in 2020, we might not have shattered a glass ceiling in 2016 for women, but we're going to shatter a glass ceiling in 2020 for women regardless.
That is
by putting
impressive.
a woman on the moon. How wonderful is that?
That's beyond the ceiling. That's into the stratosphere
Yes.
of what we can accomplish when we get over people's personal perspectives and into the actual skill sets that they have as individuals.
Yes. You know, I truly believe that if we can one day launch a woman onto the moon, we will one day launch a woman into the White House.
Should have happened already, but that's all right. We'll get it in time.
Perhaps. Coming back again to America, more news coming in regards to the articles of impeachment. Speaker Pelosi did an interview this week with ABC This Week in regards to the articles of impeachment, and she had this to say about President Trump.
We have confidence in our case that it is impeachable, and this president is impeached for life, regardless of any gamesmanship on the part of Mitch McConnell. However, that could still come to bear. But we're confident in the impeachment, and we think that it is enough testimony to remove him from office. However, we want the American people to see the truth. And why are they afraid of the truth?
I love hearing from Nancy Pelosi. She always has the best quotations. And let's just go over a couple that she expressed while creating this topic that we're going over right now. This president is impeached for life, regardless of any gamesmanship on the part of Mitch McConnell, which means that she's stating it doesn't matter what Mitch McConnell does. This president is forever being marked as having been impeached. It does not matter what happens next because it's going on right now, which echoes in the next sentence of, I held off because, frankly, I said Donald Trump is not worth impeaching. But when he crossed that line on Ukraine, he violated the Constitution in such a way that could not be ignored. So what we're really seeing right now is the Speaker of the House actually have enough gall to stand up to potentially the rest of Congress and say, I know that this is what's going on in the presidency, and this is what I know our Constitution stands for, and I don't see them being congruent. So I really do appreciate Nancy Pelosi. She expresses that she feels that Trump will be out of office no matter what in the coming months, either from the election or from this impeachment process, but that no matter what, he's definitely going to be removed. Does not matter how it happens from this point forward. And she continues to say that everything that Trump says is a projection of his being impeached. If he says that you're crazy, it's really that he's crazy because he likes to deflect. So every single word that she says, I'm just hung up on a little bit because she knows her word choice so well. It's basically a doctrine to me.
Well, and interestingly enough, with word choices this week, she also had suggested, quite frankly, that the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, was engaged in nothing more than a cover-up by not allowing witnesses in the U.S. Senate in the ongoing trial centered around the 2 articles of impeachment that are going to be sent over likely tomorrow to the U.S. Senate. So not a dull moment in the United States Senate or in Congress.
Especially not with Pelosi leading the way. So thank you
or
so
Trump
much for that,
as
Nancy.
president.
Oh, gosh.
Right? So speaking of no dull moments in the presidential election here in 2020, another day, another Democrat has yet again suspended their presidential campaign for the Democratic nomination for president in 2020. Take a look at this video coming out today.
In politics, this just in, Senator Cory Booker drops out of the 2020 Democratic presidential campaign. He says that he no longer...
So as you just saw, Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, a United States senator, had suspended his presidential campaign, unfortunately not gaining traction. And unfortunately, it seems one of the key aspects of him suspending his campaign tomorrow is going to be the last debate before the very important February 3rd Iowa caucus. And he unfortunately did not qualify for that caucus. So I think that probably had a lot to do with it. What is your opinion about Senator Booker?
He kept stating in every single time he got to speak, in every debate, he would express, I need more money, I need more money. And I think that's really what we're getting into right now. We saw Donald Trump, stated billionaire, win in the last presidential election. We're seeing people like Bloomberg come in and others as well, stating that they're just going to inundate the American populace with overwhelming polls, with overwhelming advertisements. And so I think it does come down to that. Cory Booker couldn't get funding, and that's why he had to make every statement and expression about funding, and now he's out of it because he couldn't get that. It's a shame. It points out our faulties as a society.
And it really does, because truly at the end of the day, Senator Booker really was a very, very good candidate.
At least moral.
Morally and ethically speaking, in comparison to what we have in the White House. Not to be partisan, guys. So into outside of politics and into entertainment news, we have Taylor Swift and Janet Mock, who are now going to be GLAAD nominated in the year of 2020. So Taylor Swift and Janet Mock are going to be honored this year at this GLAAD Award. Swift will receive the Vanguard Award for her continued use of her platform to further LGBT issues and acceptance. Janet Mock, who many of you know, we see Taylor Swift on the screen, and I think that my grandmother has a doily that looks like that, perhaps. Grandmother might be watching tonight. Janet Mock, a lot of us know Janet Mock, who's a writer, director, and producer of the FX series, which, yes, there's Janet Mock, who I am absolutely obsessed with, the FX series, which is known as Pose! And she is going to be receiving the Stephen F. Kolzak Award for making a significant impact with promoting LGBTQ acceptance. And very important to note that Stephen F. Kolzak also had done a lot within the HIV/AIDS community, too.
That's right. Well, it's important to know that GLAAD is, of course, an organization that promotes what the LGBTQ plus community does and the benefits that they've had in mainstream society. So I appreciate that both of these representatives have been awarded with the awareness that they have brought to a larger society, as well as those within the LGBTQ community. They've done great work.
Yes, I totally agree. So I'm looking forward to watching in the coming weeks.
And more amazing outfits, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, I'm sure.
That's all you, Arundar.
Okay, so into more entertainment news. For all of those Batman fans out there and all those boomers like Al, you might remember Burt Ward. So go ahead and take a look at this video now.
Now, let's be frank. Our Cape Crusaders would be nothing without their undies on the outside outfits.
I call them my python pants because they nearly strangled me to death. You know, but everything was horrible. The Catholic Legion of Decency said that bulge in Robin's tights is not acceptable. So they came down with, oh my gosh, every contraption, penal restraints. They had everything you can imagine. And they found a solution, okay?
And that was?
They found a doctor who had these special shrinking pills.
Oh, you're making this
Oh,
up.
I'm not.
Really?
I took those pills for like 3 days.
And they shrunk you what not?
Well, I don't know how much it affected me, but all I can tell you is I was so worried that it might make me sterile, that I couldn't have children or something. So I stopped taking the pills, and I just used my cape to cover.
That is right. As many people can remember, Batman from the 1960s with Adam West and Burt Ward as Robin has come back into the mainstream, especially the LGBTQ conversation, because Robin, according to the Catholic Legion of Decency, back in the 1960s when they were filming the show, has stated that Robin's bulge was too big. It was considered to be indecent. And therefore, they gave him pills. They gave Burt Ward pills to shrink his bulge. And he stated that he took them for 3 days before he became too overwhelmed with possible consequences.
What a problem to have. I can tell you, Al Ferguson is not here this evening, but I can sense him clutching his pearls through the screen. Truly.
I'm overwhelmed by everything I thought you were about to say about what was being touched and by whom, but it is absolutely an accurate statement. Can you imagine today, in today's culture, being given something that could actually physically harm you in that same way? We're 80 years past that.
Oh my gosh, and it could make him, as he was saying in the interview, it could make you unsterile, and you couldn't even have children.
Yeah.
The things one hears today of Miss Elphaba.
I'm glad to see that both his career and that of Adam West's could continue into such thriving businesses as they were.
Truly, yes. No, never a dull moment in the entertainment industry, truly. So now back to my favorite, which is politics. So on to Mayor Pete. So Fox News is going to be holding its second town hall with presidential candidate Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who is the former mayor of South Bend, Indiana.
And current presidential candidate.
Yes.
The first LGBTQ presidential candidate we've ever seen in this country.
Yeah, so this will be his second. Town hall, and this is going to be taking place prior to the February 3rd Iowa caucus. And This is important for Mayor Pete as he continues to stress that it's important for Democrats to build a coalition moving forward to take on the Trump machine in 2020 that will be bipartisan and consist of not only Democrats and progressives, but nonpartisan individuals, independents, and Republicans alike. So it should be interesting to watch this in the coming weeks and see how this potentially could affect the Iowa caucus February 3rd.
I look forward to seeing what happens, Aaron.
Yes, me too. So into our sports segment here at Q News tonight, we see a gay activist is climbing some of the world's highest mountains. And I know that Al is just screaming when I say highest mountains because he is immediately going to climb every mountain from the sound of music.
We could do that, or we could say that he's out there at Gay Ski Weekend falling over.
He is. He's just falling over.
Video footage of that coming Wednesday for It's Happening Out. Everybody check it out for our sister's program.
Yes. So this is actually really exciting. A 28-year-old gay rights activist by the name of Dan Kasim Miktov. He is from Kyrgyzstan. He is climbing some of the world's highest mountains of each continent to raise LGBTQ visibility and funds for local LGBTQ charities in the process via his organization called Pink Summits. He also raises a pride flag atop of each mountain for purposes of visibility. How important do you think it is, especially for individuals like Dan? He's 28, so he's a millennial. He's from Kyrgyzstan, which in Kyrgyzstan, it's actually illegal to be a homosexual. How do you think, what do you think the messaging is around this?
I'll get back into this in some of our stories that we have later today, but I think that it's important for everyone in our community, in the LGBTQIA plus community, to always represent who they are and not back down when it comes to human rights and human abilities. And there are a lot of instances that each of us might experience on a day-to-day level where we have the ability to stand up for what human rights are. And I think that he just did this right here. So hopefully we can see people that are taking the moral route and standing up for the LGBTQ community, whether they participate within it or not, because that's what it means to be a moral person.
I agree. It's all about living your most true and authentic self. So,
and standing up for those that do as well.
I agree, totally. So into more sports news, you actually have our next segment.
That is right. The NBA sports president, the very first one ever to come out, marries his partner. And so to get a little bit more in-depth with that, the NBA, of course, the National Basketball Association, their very first LGBTQ president who ever was openly out was from the Golden State Warriors, who are in San Francisco. And in 2011, their president, Rick Wells, became the first senior sports executive to announce that he was gay. And this past Friday, he married his partner of 9 years, whose name was Todd Gage. And so I just want to extend from all of us here at Q News tonight the grandest of happy wedding wishes, because we know that being a trailblazer and a pioneer in a masculine and a toxic masculine dominated sport can be difficult. So thank you so much for being openly LGBTQ, because you paved the way for so many of us who can do so much more than what our sexuality might insist to other people.
Yes, I completely agree with you. In our next story, we see that queer icon Boy George is being slammed as transphobic, which is very disappointing. Boy George, who has stated that the use of pronouns is gone too far, and it's a modern form of attention-seeking. Many are calling his remarks transphobic. I had myself scrolled through the Twitter sphere today, and many of us know that Boy George has been quite flamboyant himself and participated in the art of drag. What do you think him saying that this is attention-seeking, saying he, him, his, she, her, hers, blah, 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 blah,
I have a lot of thoughts, because Boy George has been an LGBTQ icon for such a long time. But at the same time, if he's creating controversy now, is he just expanding the conversation, or is he actually saying something that maybe signifies that his appearance and his differences are greater than what the cultural zeitgeist of today dictates? So I'm not sure what to believe. I am a fan of Boy George, so I believe he has the best things at heart. But we'll see what happens with his follow-up remarks to this conversation.
And it will be pretty interesting for someone who has unfortunately shown that they're not as relevant as they probably were in the past. And perhaps maybe he did some things that may have been attention-seeking themselves.
Speaking of Al Ferguson being gone,
Oh,
as we referenced,
no.
It's LGBTQ. We got to throw some shade in there, right? I can't let you have all the fun, Aaron.
So going on to our next story here. So an employee has been fired for misleading someone and their HIV story and publishing it to the general public. Take a look at this outrageous and bizarre video.
Pines police officers, Tercero spit on one of the officers and then claimed he was HIV positive. That got him a charge of battery on a police officer and, of course, that trespassing charge. Tercero was, according to the Pembroke Pines police, taken to a hospital to be evaluated. And certainly part of that evaluation will be to determine whether or not he is indeed HIV positive.
That is right. A CBS reporter has found themselves fired for false information that they perpetuated both online and in their stories in New York. Now, of course, HIV can be spread. You would know this, Aaron, by blood, by semen, by pre-seminal fluids, by rectal fluids, by vaginal fluids, and by breast milk. One thing that it can't be spread by is
Saliva.
spit.
Yeah.
Saliva. More known in terms of science. It would be saliva. And now this CBS New York's website published and shared a story of a man who was allegedly attacking a police officer by spitting on him, threatening his positive HIV status. In fact, the quotation that was used in the story and online and Twitter was released after an HIV attack. Now, there's all sorts of problematic statements with this, but the biggest one of all is that the followed-along story by the CBS reporter was only covered by the president of the Port Authority Police Benevolent Association because they said that it was an attack that was caused by just saliva, and of course, saliva cannot cause any sort of HIV transmission. So the CBS reporter was fired for medical misinformation, and let's make it clear, spit does not transfer HIV in any capacity.
And I believe in, actually, there was a recent occurrence here in Broward County that was very similar as well, and I think that might have been in the video that our viewers just saw. So regardless, it is never correct in any instance, even if in law enforcement, to out anyone publicly based off of their HIV status. And it's also never right to spit on anyone. Either way, absolutely deplorable. But let's get down to the facts that we need to have an information campaign that is pragmatic and speaks to the truth in regards to transmission and contraction of HIV and how it is and it is not
Just
spread.
being disrespectful is not being an attack on someone's physical health. There's a huge difference there. Maybe wrong for both reasons, but not inherently the same thing.
Yes. So you have our good news story.
That's right. I do have a good news story. I almost forgot that we ended on the good news way. So this week, a Reddit forum, and Reddit is popular for all online cultural zeitgeist information, covered a user, Lord Byron 1987, who reported coming out to her roommates. And then, once coming out, had awoken the next day to an entire makeup goodie bag. And we've got an image, a short little video that describes what she came up to. Of course, the roommates thought they were blocks or some kind of like building blocks, that it signified something other than it was. But no, it's a makeup bag.
Sponge, yeah.
And of course, these were stated by the user Lord Byron 1987. I haven't used makeup bags in 32 years. I have no idea what these are. That's not a direct quotation. But what we're covering here in the story is that this woman was able to come out to her roommates, and she expected to be attacked in some way, but instead was given, thank you for expressing who you are. Here are some tools you could use. And that's what we need to see more of here, especially
a
system of support, especially when it comes to social media, because a lot of times our roommates, the people that we hold closest to us, might be the ones that we're scared of. And so it's beautiful to see this Reddit user's roommates coming out to support her in her coming out as a trans woman. So we appreciate that. Thank you to all of you.
And you know what? And in stressing and being an ally and a voice to our trans brothers and sisters, I think it's also important to note why we are here as Q News Tonight. You know, Q News Tonight is a resource of information for the LGBTQA community and how the issues of the world affect each and every single one of us. Our fundamental human rights, our civil liberties that all too often, especially in the wake of the politics that we find, are on the line. The rights that state that we can marry the person that we love on Sunday, but we can be fired from our job on Monday simply because we are LGBTQ. to the trans person of color, in particular trans women of color, whose average life expectancy here in America is only yet of 35 years of age, who live in fear of just walking down a street simply because of who they are. This is why we are here, and this is why this program exists. This is why Q News Tonight is here, because we are here to stand with you. This is Q News Tonight. Together, yes, together, we are out of the closet and into the headlines. And as always, I want to thank our production team, my anchor Napoleon Plays, our other anchor Al Ferguson, who will be back next week, and of course the holy ground that we stand on here with the World AIDS Museum and Education Center, which there is no other place truly like it. We are so blessed to have the World AIDS Museum and Education Center here in Wilton Manors, Fort Lauderdale. Its executive director Raquel Lopes, and to all of you for continuing to welcome us into your lives and into your homes. As always, we are Q News Tonight, out of the closet and into the headlines. Good evening.